Hello, this is Nightline, and I'm Raymond. The top stories. Health Ministry closely monitoring WHO, other countries over Omicron variant. And airlines told to reduce airfare prices. Good morning. The Health Ministry is actively conducting risk assessment following the emergence of a new COVID-19 variant, Omicron. Its Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said this was crucial as Malaysians had started travelling overseas, including to European countries, as well as performing Umrah, and the country is also reopening its borders to fully vaccinated foreign visitors. Khairi said since the new variant is quite dynamic, his ministry is monitoring the development on an hourly basis, based on reports received from the World Health Organization, WHO, and other countries on the existence of Omicron worldwide. He added the ministry will also determine if there was a need to add new countries to the newly announced travel restriction list based on their risk assessment. Based on genomic surveillance, no Omicron variant had been detected in Malaysia as of Saturday. Just a day earlier, Khairi announced a temporary ban on foreigners with travel history to 7 African countries where the new coronavirus strain had emerged. Malaysians were also prohibited from visiting these countries, namely South Africa, Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia and Zimbabwe, with both measures in effect beginning Saturday. In other news, Australia and several other countries joined nations imposing restrictions on travel from Southern Africa on Saturday after the discovery of a new coronavirus variant called Omicron sparked global concerns and triggered a market sell-off. Australia said it would ban non-citizens who have been in 9 Southern African countries from entering and will require supervised 14-day quarantines for Australian citizens and their dependents returning from there. Meanwhile, in Britain, the main opposition Labour Party called on Saturday for a faster booster vaccination program, saying the gap between the second dose of vaccination and the booster jab should be cut from 6 to 5 months. Omicron, dubbed a variant of concern by the World Health Organization, is potentially more contagious than previous variants of the disease. Airline companies in the country need to immediately lower their airfares without having to involve excessive government intervention. Transport Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong, through a post on his Facebook page on Saturday, described the current airfares, especially to Sarawak, as very burdensome for consumers. Datuk Sri Wee said the issue is a serious concern to the government, and many discussions have been held to resolve the problem, as it affects many people, from the travellers themselves to the family members they long to reunite with after much time apart due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He also said the government acknowledged the concerns and feedback raised by the public over the exorbitant airfares ahead of the upcoming holiday season this year-end and early 2022. He added his ministry has also held meetings with Malaysia Airlines, AirAsia and Malindo on the need to reduce airfares to allow more people to enjoy lower airfares during this year-end period. Datuk Sri Wee also pointed out that Malaysia Airlines has pledged additional flights to Sarawak next month, which should result in reduction in airfares to the state. However, he also reminded industry players to refrain from hiking airfares to address wide public perception that this is being done by airlines to recoup losses due to the pandemic. Meanwhile, AirAsia has dropped its airfares down from around 1,000 ringgit to below 200 ringgit for flights from Kuala Lumpur to Kuching. This after the airline received confirmation from the Sarawak Transport Ministry and the Sarawak State Disaster Management Committee for additional 42 weekly flights from Peninsular Malaysia and Sabah into the state. In a statement on Saturday, AirAsia Malaysia Chief Executive Officer Riyad Asmat said the airline's operation is all about the economies of scale, where they need to achieve a high passenger volume so that the costs can be spread among a sizable number of passengers, allowing it to offer travellers low fares. The airline also said it is appealing to the relevant authorities to also approve its request for extra Chinese New Year flights and to remove frequency restrictions on all the approved flights entirely to enable it to better manage cost efficiency and lower the fares for passengers. Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia will not contest any seat in the 12th Sarawak state election. Instead, its president Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the party will assist its ally Gabungan Parti Sarawak GPS in the polls, which will take place next month. Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the matter was decided during discussions with Sarawak Chief Minister Tan Sri Abang Johari Abang Openg, who is also the GPS president, several days before the state election announcement was made, as well as at the party level. He added Bersatu will also help GPS achieve a bigger victory in the election. The Perikatan Nasional chairman also said Bersatu's decision not to contest in the Sarawak polls was taken to respect GPS's views and request for the Sarawak-based coalition to be given a clear path in the election. However, Tan Sri Muhyiddin indicated that Bersatu may contest in Sarawak in the 15th general election. On Friday, GPS announced that it will contest in all 82 Sarawak state constituencies in the state polls, which will be held on December 18th, with nominations on December 6th and early voting on December 14th. Primary school pupils will undergo the mandatory COVID-19 screening tests on a rotational basis every Wednesday. In a statement on Saturday, the Education Ministry, MOE, said it had supplied COVID-19 self-test kits to primary schools under its purview. The ministry said this is to ensure that a screening test could be carried out in accordance with the COVID-19 self-test implementation procedures contained in the School Management and Operation Guidelines 3.0. The MOE also welcomed the Health Ministry's recommendation and will conduct the test on at least 10% of the student population in each school on a weekly basis. It also said the ruling will be applied to all primary private educational institutions registered under the ministry, and a notification letter over this requirement will also be issued. The MOE said this in response to Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin's press conference on Friday, where he announced that the COVID-19 rotation screening tests for primary school students were required to prevent clusters in schools. The government is expected to announce soon on financial assistance for agricultural industry players to reduce their operation costs due to the price increase in raw materials. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said this after his ministry, together with the Agriculture and Food Industry Ministry, had submitted a proposal on the matter to the Finance Ministry last November 24th. In a statement on Saturday, Datuk Sri Nanta said a series of discussions and meetings were held to address the issue, and the Finance Ministry has in principle agreed to consider the recommendations by both the ministries and will make an announcement on its decision. He added that the move was taken following engagement sessions with affected stakeholders and agriculture industry players, which informed the government of their need for financial aid to reduce their operational cost. Datuk Sri Nanta also said the ministry is always sensitive and concerned about any issue or price increase of goods, as it burdens the people. Thus, the ministry's enforcement officers will conduct frequent checks and monitor the price of goods nationwide and will take action under the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act if there is an element of profiteering. The government is confident that the strategies and implementation of the initiatives under the 2022 budget will ensure that the country's recovery is on firm footing. National Budget Office Director Datuk Johan Mahmud Merican said although Malaysia's deficit this year is projected to be high at 6.5%, the government is managing it while maintaining its expansionary fiscal policy stance to support the country's growth momentum.
In terms of debt, yes, a high deficit certainly then contributes to debt. We will be entering the 1 trillion club. At least our government debt will exceed 1 trillion next year. And also of more concern is our debt service charges. This year they would reach about 17.6%. That means that for every 1 ringgit of revenues, we'll be paying almost 18 cents worth of just interest charges to grow strongly.
He was speaking during an interview on TV3's flagship business program Money Matters on Saturday. He added in the medium to long term, the government will need to consolidate and undertake fiscal reform. And under the 12th Malaysia Plan, the government aims to reduce the deficit to between 3 and 3.5% by 2025.
We're not just satisfied with a growth measured by GDP. I think what's also very important is to ensure that it's a recovery not just in terms of GDP, but a job recovery and income recovery. And with that, we target that unemployment, we want to bring it down to 4% or lower. And in terms of also ensuring that businesses also recover in tandem with that job recovery. I think first, understandably, the government focuses on the lower income, the B40, recognizing also during the crisis, they were probably worse hit by the crisis. And so in the budget, we've set aside close to 10 billion, 8 billion in terms of Bantuan Keluarga Malaysia, helping about almost 9.5 million recipients, another 2 billion focused towards welfare, particularly for the poor. Now, it's not to say that the M40 has been forgotten. Part of the issue is you need to understand that the B40 are not taxpayers and therefore the government assists them through cash assistance. The government has actually assisted them principally through many, many measures. Amongst them, the government has announced one, at least for real property gains tax, disposals after 6 years have been reduced from 5% to 0. In addition to that, we've also extended the sales tax exemption on cars for another 6 months. It's not too late, Muhammad, to buy a car. And in addition to that, on top of the various personal reliefs that the M40 and T20 taxpayers already deduct from their tax returns, in Budget 2022, we've had more than 5,000 worth of additional or enhanced tax reliefs. These include, for example, an extension on the lifestyle tourism sector in terms of first being assisted by really the pent-up demand from the domestic sources in terms of Malaysians wanting to really enjoy holidays at this moment. Looking towards next year, the government certainly has started the steps of, for example, we'll be starting the pilot for example, Langkawi for foreign tourists. We've also starting the VTL with Singapore to allow basically them to travel without the need for quarantine.
Still to come on Nightline, more than 3 million vehicles yet to renew road tax. Stay tuned. Thanks for staying with us on Nightline. Malaysia is determined to improve the country's achievements, especially in the areas of trade, investment and tourism from the United Kingdom, UK, which has suffered a decline due to the pandemic. Malaysian High Commissioner to the UK, Zakri Jaafar, said this after handing over his letter of appointment from the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to the head of state Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace in London on Thursday, November 25th. This year's diplomatic ceremony combines the old traditions with new technology. Zakri and his wife, Nur Aini Abdul Rahman, were taken to Buckingham Palace in a horse-drawn carriage and accompanied by a member of the diplomatic corps. However, the handing over of the letter of credentials to Queen Elizabeth II was held in a virtual ceremony. Due to COVID restrictions, the Queen remains in Windsor Castle and spoke to Zakri via a video link. Zakri, who is the 22nd Malaysian High Commissioner to the UK, said he was deeply honoured to be appointed to the position and will endeavour to deepen and expand the relationship and cooperation between Malaysia and the UK to a new high.
Memandangkan kehadiran saya di sini di dalam era pandemik, pencapaian-pencapaian yang sebelum ini yang telah berlangsung antara Malaysia dan United Kingdom telah mengalami kemerosotan ataupun kemerosotan. Jadi tumpuan saya adalah untuk memperbaiki keadaan yang telah merosot itu, termasuk dalam bidang perdagangan, dua hala, aliran pelaburan, people to people contact, terutama dalam aspek pelancongan. Kita pernah ataupun sebelum COVID kita menerima hampir 400,000 kunjungan daripada pelancong dari United Kingdom, dan bilangan itu menurun dengan sangat mendadak sepanjang COVID berlangsung.
Established in 1957, diplomatic relations between Malaysia and the UK have been substantive and broad-based, encompassing a wide range of areas including trade and investment, defence and security, education and training, climate change, culture and tourism, and people-to-people relations. The UK remains an important trading and economic partner for Malaysia. From January to September 2021, total trade with the UK increased by 4.9% to 12.59 billion ringgit. Total exports to the United Kingdom were worth almost 10 billion ringgit, while imports amounted to 6.7 billion ringgit. Zakri is a senior diplomat and has served in the Foreign Ministry since 1992. Prior to his posting to the UK, he had served as Malaysian ambassador to Jordan and to Bosnia and Herzegovina. The joyous diplomatic occasion was celebrated by government officers, their spouses and staff of the Malaysian Commission based in London. A total of 3.78 million vehicles throughout the country have yet to renew their motor vehicle license, LKM, also known as road tax, as of November 16th. Road Transport Department JPJ said these vehicle owners have until December 31st to renew their road tax. The public are also advised not to wait until the last minute to renew their road tax, as this could cause congestion at JPJ counters. Road tax renewals can also be done either online or at any JPJ branch. Those with expired road tax after December 31st would face legal action, as there will be no more warning or extension of the grace period. In September, Transport Minister Datuk Sri Wee Ka Siong said the grace period for renewal of road tax had been extended to the end of December, although vehicles must have valid insurance policies. The cost of performing the Hajj is expected to increase by more than 50% following the 15% value-added tax VAT introduced by the Saudi Arabian government from only 5% previously. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Ahmad Marzouk Shari, said this would result in the cost of performing the Hajj for Malaysians to be more than 30,000 ringgit, compared to only 23,000 ringgit previously.
Sekarang kita ada beberapa formula yang belum lagi di final. Berapa persen kita nak tanggung daripada actual cost, daripada kos asal.
Belum lagi dimuktamad.
Belum dimuktamad. Sebelum ni kos haji 23,000. 23,000, kerajaan hanya ambil daripada jemaah 9,980. Jadi hampir 13,000 kita tanggung.
He added that tabung haji will bear part of the total cost. However, the exact amount will be decided by the Cabinet and will be announced early next year, along with the Hajj quota for Malaysia. He also said Malaysia will abide by all decisions made by the Saudi Arabian government, whether to maintain the existing quota of 30,000 pilgrims or reduce it. Omicron variant is unlikely to trigger new wave, says expert. This and more when Nightline returns. Novavax said it had started working on a version of its COVID-19 vaccine to target the variant detected in South Africa, as other vaccine manufacturers have expressed confidence that they will be able to rapidly adapt their jabs if the Omicron variant spreads. The company has said it would have a shot prepared for testing and manufacturing purposes in the coming few weeks. It is understood that the company's COVID-19 shot contains an actual version of the virus's spike protein that cannot cause disease but can trigger the immune system. Earlier on Friday, Pfizer and BioNTech were confident to be able to develop and produce a tailor-made vaccine against that variant in approximately 100 days, subject to regulatory approval. Moderna has also, on the other hand, said that it has advanced a comprehensive strategy to anticipate new variants of concern since early 2021, including 3 levels of response if the immunity offered by its jabs wanes. Meanwhile, a UK vaccine expert said the Omicron COVID variant is unlikely to reboot the pandemic in a population that has been widely vaccinated. According to Director of the Oxford Vaccine Group, Professor Andrew Pollard, existing vaccines should work against the new strains, but that would only become apparent after more research in the coming week. He also suggested that the Omicron variant will not outrun the dominant Delta variant in Europe. However, Pollard also did not rule out the need to develop a new vaccine against the emerging Omicron variant. Pollard's remarks came after the variant reached Europe on Friday, with scientists warning it would inevitably spread to Britain. Airfare Azman defies the odds to win Malaysian Open women's title. Stay tuned. Squash, the 2021 Malaysian Open Squash Championships. Malaysia's Airfare Azman has defied the odds as she won the women's final on Saturday after beating world number 8 and top seed Salma Hani at the National Squash Centre in Bukit Jalil. World number 8 Hani showed her class to dominate the early stages of the first game for a 9-4 lead before the undaunted Airfare fought back to draw level at 9-9 and eventually win it 12-10. With her confidence boosted, world number 69 Airfare continued from where she left off to take the second game 11-8, despite some nervy moments towards the end. Airfare then carried on the momentum as she turned in a sublime performance to win 11-4 and take home her first ever Professional Squash Association PSA World Tour Bronze event title. The world number 69 is the 5th local to win the Malaysian Open women's title, after Loh Wee Wen, Rachel Arnold, S. Siva Sanghari and Dato' Nicole David in the last decade. And with that, that's it for Nightline. Over in India, a man named Anand Prakash Chukse built a stunning 4-bedroom house resembling the Taj Mahal in Madhya Pradesh. That includes a library, a meditation room, and an 8-meter-high dome. It took him nearly 3 years to finish the house, of which he dedicated to his wife, Manjusha. Let's take a look at this spectacular house. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for tuning in and stay safe, Malaysia.